Hello, I'm Hope Olivia, founder of Lit Agency, and I'm here in New York City for Advertising Week with Jordi Gelber, and we're going to be discussing the crossover between acting and UGC. You are an actress.
I'm an actress.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am an actress and content creator based in New York City. And I've been doing this for about 15 years. I've been doing like social media consulting and stuff for the last decade plus. But as an actress, you know, like I think that the last couple of years, at least since, you know, YouTube and all that good stuff came out, that it's been an easy kind of fold into of trying to find work and create work. And now that there's UGC, there's more opportunity to have like quicker turnaround work and really get your face out there as an actress.
Now, before you started doing UGC, that's user-generated content, were you working as an influencer as well? And do you still do that?
So I felt like the first thing that you could do before UGC was very big, that you had to be an influencer. I feel like there was a lot of pressure to do that. And for me, I really felt like I had to. And so I was becoming an influencer, and I do still do technically influencer content.
Okay.
But I think that especially with UGC and like shifting into being more like a figurehead or like a thought leader or tastemaker, whatever buzzword you feel like using. But there's a kind of shift in terms of not necessarily being like an influencer and like pushing sales, but being kind of like a figurehead of like, I advocate for this, or I really enjoy filming or shooting, or I can talk really well in front of the camera. So there's lots more opportunity than having to really focus on just keeping your numbers up, because it kind of sucks the joy out of it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now for those of you who don't know, user-generated content is kind of like if influencer marketing and commercials had a baby. They're like mini commercials for social media, but they're filled with a lot more authenticity. And a lot of times brands will use influencers, but sometimes they'll just use content creators who don't have a following at all. There is sometimes a little bit of acting involved in those.
Yes, there's definitely a little bit of acting involved. And I think what's exciting about UGC is, like you said, it is a bit of a crossover, where before the advertising industry really had very expensive commercials. They really dwindled down the last couple of years. We could do a lot on a little. I mean, the way that our phones shoot in 4K, that's such a great positive thing now. It cuts the cost down. But also like the way that industrials used to be, UGC's really replaced that for people. And there is a bit of acting in there, because a lot of actors who want to be hosts, for example, like I do a lot of hosting and interviews, or let's say they want to be like QVC, we have TikTok Shop now, but if you didn't want to do that, you could be hosting or talking live, doing content talking about a specific product or something like that. And also, you know, it's like conventional commercials. You do get a script sometimes depending on what the client wants or the brand wants. But yeah, they range between being like an honest testimonial or getting a script or hosting. I mean, it's a variety of opportunity, but it's just a lot easier.
Would you say that your background as an actor has made the transition into UGC very easy, or do you think that it is much different from your acting experiences?
That's such a unique question, because I've been thinking about that a lot. I think that the hardest wraparound going from, let's just say you're going from being an actor or performer straight to just being a full-time creator as a UGC creator, because as you said, it's very different. I think that the hardest thing to wrap your head around is that it's so much simpler. So you're used to having, because, you know, as an actor, we do self-tapes a lot. Like, we get submitted for self-tapes. Like, we have to do the filming and the editing and the lighting, all that stuff. That's no different than UGC, but we're not used to getting like the reward right away. We're still waiting for like another step. So I think the hardest thing was that, oh, I just booked the job, I film it, and like I'm done. Like, there's just, the pressure is off, and like getting away from that kind of excess amount of pressure, it's very difficult. You have to think a little bit differently, but it's a lot more fun, I think, because you have more control about how you put yourself out there, because that's, at the end of the day, they want to work with you.
Right.
So.
Now let's go back to what you were talking about with the budget, how you can do a lot with a little compared to regular commercials. At Lit Agency, we get brands all the time who come in with a small budget, and they don't really understand the value that a UGC creator can bring, which is what we kind of help them through, and we talk them through the benefits of that. Do you find that, and you can be completely honest, you can be as brutally honest as you want, do you find that brands try to undercut you with payment? I know that every once in a while we'll get a brand that wants to pay $50.
And
they don't understand that a 30-second video is easily a 4-hour shoot that includes hair and makeup and filming and saying the same lines over and over again, and then editing.
Yeah. And I would also say, even on top of that, I think a lot of us are perfectionists, that some people think it's like one and done. And there are people that easily do that.
Good for them.
Yeah, right? That don't necessarily come from like an entertainment background or even come from like influencer background. They're just getting into it now. They're like, oh, script done. Just put it out there. But you also forget, like, there are script changes. Like, I had a recent experience just like this, and I was very frustrated, so I'll be very honest. So I had a company that reached out to me, and they were a new company. They couldn't afford my normal rate, but that was fine. Like, I have a startup. I have an agency. We talked about this. I'm in marketing. And so I'm very, supportive of small businesses.
Right.
But, I still want to make money. Right. But this company, I already lowered the price a bit so they could afford it.
Right.
But on top of that, they gave me a script, and they were going to tell me they were going to send the product that all at the same time. The product didn't come, but they're like, oh, I'll just give you the script. You can do the script ahead of time. And I said, okay, sure, thinking that the product would come within a week. But now you got to recognize, like, when it comes to UGC, you're not getting paid before the work. Depending on the kind of creator or the portfolio or experience that you have, you're not getting the full payment ahead of time. Most of the time, you can get a certain amount up front, or you get it when the project is completely completed.
Which could take a while.
So first of all, the first issue I had was I shot everything in the script, and they wanted corporate. So I had a dress from when I worked in corporate.
Right.
And it was a bright dress, but it was nice, still corporate looking. And I sent samples to them in the middle of working together, and they said, oh, looks good, when are you going to send us the rest of it? So I thought there was no problem with my outfit. I finished the entire script.
Oh, no.
And then they tell me a couple days later they don't like the outfit. And it's just like, I already sent this to you. I wish you would have told me. And then on top of that, I'm like, I still haven't received the product. And I'm like, can you pay me for the work? And they want me to reshoot everything now. So the 30-second spot could easily, you're not talking about, you still got to think about reshoots, if there are script changes. Also, you have to think about, okay, well, the 30 seconds, if you're shooting your certain stuff, if you want B-roll to feature in that 30 seconds and you're waiting on product, now I'm waiting on their timeline for whenever they send me the product, when it arrives. I'm still responsible for doing stuff, and it ruins the rest of my planning and content schedule. So, yeah, I think a lot of people with brands specifically, first of all, a lot of brands, I think, are having an issue differentiating between what's an influencer and what's a UGC content creator. When the UGC content creator is really like print modeling or industrials or commercials, and influencers you are using them for their social. And I think once you remove that gets better, but I think there's still a lot of people burned from the toxic influencer culture. Not all influencers are bad. But I do believe that that's where a lot of undercutting with prices. And I also think that now with the ambiguity of usage rights, there's a lot of issues with pricing and budget, because you're now licensing directly from the person to do it versus an ad buy.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're going to be teaching a class to actors who are interested in becoming UGC creators. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I am currently in the process of creating a course that I'm teaching at the end of the month with Actors Fast Track, which is this amazing business of acting platform. And I'm teaching students there, or coaches there, actors, whatever, how to get into the UGC world. And the biggest question from the beginning is, oh my God, I don't have a big following. And to alleviate the fact that you don't have to have a big following, that means all ages can do it. And I think that you don't have to be a starving artist. It's one of the benefits I think UGC really provides people, is that you can make a living working from home, already using equipment that you've already invested in, whether it's your phone. And if you're an actor, you have lighting. It might not be a bunch of soft boxes like in the studio, but like you'll have a ring light, or you have natural lighting. A lot of people want that. So I think it's an interesting transition, but at the end of the day, the hardest place I find that actors really have a hard time understanding is the business side of it, no different than the business side of show business, which is you have to know your brand or your niche or your style, and also negotiating the contracts, which I think is overall one of the big areas that traditional UGC creators, they get that down. When people that are going from influencing to UGC or acting to UGC, they're still struggling with.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, the contract part. You've worked with an agency before, which we love.
Big fan.
Now, tell me the difference for those who might be considering switching or adding UGC to their acting career, what is the difference between being a freelancer and kind of negotiating these contracts with brands yourself, or doing it through an agency who negotiates that for you and is the go-between?
Definitely. First of all, that was one of the reasons I was so excited to work with Lit, especially because like I know you have an acting background, so I felt very seen, which is important. But in the same way that in any performing industry, like you have representation, like I go to you, or I have a manager who helps me with my acting, who sometimes helps me with UGC, because there's a lot of UGC castings out there right now. But it's important to have someone negotiating your behalf, because I feel like we still have this need to just like please people. The people pleasing is very strong in this community. But I think that, you know, we're negotiating numbers and terminology that unless you worked in business and corporate, which you and I both have, you're not familiar with a lot of it. So when I say like ad buyout or media buyout or time slots or this or Facebook only, I mean, or social only or Meta or whatever, a lot of people, they just assume very small portions of that. Like if I were to say that you were going to be on a billboard and we're shooting something to be put on a billboard, and that billboard's going to run for 6 months, and I said we're going to shoot a photo shoot for that, most people would understand that, because to them that's traditional, normal, like modeling behavior, let's say. Or I'm going to do a commercial that's going to run during the Super Bowl, and every time it runs, this is what's going to get, I'm going to get paid for X amount of months. But the same thing happens with UGC. But the thing is, with UGC specifically, it's a faster turnaround. You're going to be seen by more people than you could probably even imagine on TV or film or even radio, for example, right? And I think that people don't realize, and they undercut themselves. I mean, I still do that because I'm still wrapping my brain about it. But I think having representation that could really negotiate, especially because like, you know a lot of my worth that I might not even see because I'm too connected to my own portfolio.
We're our own biggest critic, too.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give actors as step one? Just the first step, because if you want the rest of the steps, you're going to have to take your class, obviously. What is the first step to adding UGC into your acting portfolio?
I would say you need to treat it like a business. It's a business like any other. Like when I wake up in the morning, I apply to X amount of castings. Like if you're hungry about making this into a career, you have to treat like the career already exists, because it's a fast career. You can make your first opportunity in a day. Also, you know, in a very lowbrow kind of way, you could be an affiliate marketer making content for affiliate stuff really fast off the bat. It doesn't pay a lot necessarily, but it's a great way to get the foot in the door
Build
with
the portfolio.
Yeah, and it's also a great way, I think, that if you want to kind of see how to make money, why not work on something you've already bought? You know? But I think that it's really about having a discussion with yourself of how much time you can actually commit to this. Like it took me 3 months to redo my current portfolio after already having a portfolio, and that's because I realized I needed to whittle down, and also I wanted to make sure that I was doing things within my brand that I felt comfortable talking about. But from other people, it might be different.
And I want to bounce off the affiliate marketing section of what you said. It's important for both brands and creators to know that affiliate marketing only works and only brings in money if you are doing it and posting consistently. You can't just, I mean, I guess technically there's always those viral videos. It happens, but that is the exception to the rule. In general, you can't just take a product, post it once, and hope to make, you know, $1 million off of it.
Of course not. And I think a perfect example of that, like in marketing and advertising, you need to see something 7 times.
Yes, the rule of 7.
The rule
I
of
love
7,
that you know that.
Yeah, advertising junkie. You know, because I mean, like my degree is in marketing, and I learned so much about that. That's helped me so much with this. And I think that it's almost like I know too much, because so much of what's conventional advertising is so different when it comes to UGC and content and stuff like that. But imagine how long it takes you to buy something. Right? Like, and people think that you're just going to watch one video and you're going to automatically get, like you're automatically going to make a sale. It doesn't happen.
No, you have to convince the buyer. They have to see it again. You have to get them stuck in their, get the product stuck in their brain.
And also you have to think about it, like if you want to be, let's say, a creator that also kind of skews on the end of also being like an influencer, you're going to show your face. You have to be advocating for those kind of things behind that specific product for such a long period of time. Like I always like to say that the reason why creators, like influencers, sorry, let's use that word specifically. Social media influencers became successful really because of makeup artists. And makeup artists became really successful because they would get inspired by a look, or they would want to show their artistry, and they would create a look.
Okay.
And I always like to say it's informational, it's inspirational, informational, educational. So they do
Yes.
something that inspires them. Then they show people, here's what I used on my face. And if you can't afford that, here's something else that I would recommend.
Right.
And then they educate you on how to apply those things and certain
Yeah.
techniques. So it's a huge follow through. And that's why people, I think we saw a panel yesterday that showed Michaela, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
and how
Yeah, I love her.
yeah, and how she did a product specifically on her wedding, and it was a full people bought it.
Yeah.
But she's been advocating for makeup for so long that for her to talk about a makeup product or to recommend a makeup product, she's already been such an expert. So if you're going to go the
Right.
affiliate route, it's really about doing products that you can really advocate for.
Right.
But if you want to just do
Definitely.
straight UGC and not worry about having to sell,
Right.
it's a great way to hone in on your editing skills.
Yeah.
And that's why I think actors with all the self-tapes and stuff, it's important. You got to know that anyway. Also, you don't have to show your face. And I think that's a wonderful
Yeah.
thing.
Yes,
oh,
there is faceless
yeah.
UGC for sure.
For sure.
Now, studies have shown that content with a face in it is going
Yes.
to perform better. But let's say you're doing something with, ASMR, or you really want to focus on the product and it not be about the creator. Faceless content is a
huge.
great
Yeah.
route for that. Is a great way to promote something. We did some faceless product for a jewelry brand not too long ago, and although it did not perform as well as product with a person in a video with a person in it, it was beautiful. It's
Yeah,
aesthetic. When you want
exactly.
aesthetic content, faceless content is a great way to go.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to practice your faceless content skills only because you're going to end up using that in a lot of UGC anyway.
Right.
It's not all. A good example of an experience I had with you guys is that I got to work with Birdie and Louie Dog Food.
Right.
And
We love them.
And I have a dog, so it was a lot of fun. And I got to show my dogs a lot.
Right.
But I think that, it was not just about me interacting with my dogs or interacting with the food, but how the
Right.
dogs interact with the food. But also, I need to also find a way to really make the packaging look nice and all those
Right.
things. So it's a good way to get practice. But yes, showing your face is
Yeah.
important, especially if you want to get more work. But I
Yeah.
think that
It's not necessary to create.
Yeah,
that
and I
feel
think as
too.
actors, if you don't, the hardest thing for me is oh my God, put makeup on again. You
Yeah.
get overwhelmed by it. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that.
No.
Nobody speaks about the
There's an
process
hour just for
before.
that, okay?
Yes. Yeah, there
Exactly.
is. And, somebody might laugh at that. They might think that's funny. But the fact of the matter is, like you were talking about with your outfit, you do get brands requesting revisions simply because, you know what, we really wish your hair was curled, or we really would. And I just want to say to any brands that might be watching this, it is very important that you put these things in the brief. Now, with our agency, if that were to happen, now that one that you were talking about was not booked through our agency, but if that were to happen with our agency, we would say that would have needed to be in the brief.
Yeah.
We can do a revision, but we can't do a whole reshoot just because you
don't
decided you wanted a different outfit. Right.
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciate about working with you guys as well, is every brief that I've received has been very specific, and that's honestly what the most successful, I think, campaigns that I've done have had, which
Yeah.
is this company that I worked with, they were like, oh, you need to look professional, but then later on when they gave me their visions, oh, yeah, I look like a veterinarian. It was another dog product. My
Yeah.
dog is slowly becoming a model and it's a UGC creator in himself. But
Time for his own Instagram account.
Exactly, right? But, had I known that from the beginning, or had I gone through my representation, my
Right.
representation would have verified that for me.
Right.
And also let them know how many revisions they could have received. Because it could be as simple as, I had another great brief sent to me, and it was just, they sent me samples of what they like. I love when brands send samples. And I
Right.
think that's so important, even if it's not your product, even if
Yeah.
it's your competitor's video, or even if it's just a style of a video that you
Yeah.
like and has nothing to do with your niche or your brand or whatever, it's important because it really indicates to us and also indicates to our representatives what they're looking for, and therefore we
Right.
can really understand the scope of work that entails. you
Yeah.
know? So
So to wrap this up, one final question. We were comparing UGC kind of to internet commercials. Now, we all know as an actor in a commercial, you don't even technically necessarily need to know much about the product or to use it yourself. You're an actor, right? can we talk about that difference between acting in a commercial or a movie where you are really just, you're an actor, and the importance of really liking the brand you're working with as a UGC creator? Because even though it is a little bit of acting, a little bit of B-roll, a little bit of footage, audiences can always tell when you are just promoting something for the money. And that does not convert well. It shows on camera and it does not convert well. So can we talk about your experience with that, and if there have ever been any brands that have approached you and you've just said, you know, this isn't my niche or this isn't my thing. How do you feel about that?
First of all, I love this question so much because I didn't even think of this, and I think that there's a really important part that's different between acting and UGC, and that's because as an actor, you really are grateful for any job, right? And I hate to say that, but you are. You are. And like you're going to do jobs that you feel most comfortable with.
Right.
Like commercials are great. They pay a lot.
Right.
So of course people want commercials. But when it comes to UGC, this is the one also murky area. I will say that like this is a one influencer kind of nugget you have to think about, which is like just because you're not promoting this on your own stuff, you're still using your face.
Your face.
And so if you don't like something, it's going to be evident. Yes, I've definitely done products that I don't necessarily subscribe to, but I did the research and tried it out ahead of time.
You still saw that they were a good product.
Yeah, they're still a good product, and I think that there are plenty of brands that the pay was great, but I just couldn't follow through with it, either from my own integrity or time, or just that like it was taking me so long to accept it. I'm like, my heart's not into this.
Right.
And I think that it's important to do your research and also understand the specifics.
Yeah.
And realize that like if you don't like it, no one else is gonna like it with your content.
Yeah.
Like you can shoot the most beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to your face, this is the one area where I say like it's important with having people's faces because it does really help advocate for the brands, and it's more authentic to see a human do it. But you know, you want to work with things that you're comfortable with. That's why I always say with people, the first way to get started is start with something that you know. So like whether it's like a phone case that you just bought, like I just got to deal with the phone case company. Like cool, like because I'm actively using my phone in a lot of my content. So if you're actively using your phone, or you have a specific phone case or headphones, or let's say you have a certain kind of coffee drink every day, like I just complimented a coffee company that I really liked, and they're sending me coffee. Like
there you go. Yeah.
And I think also another thing to demystify, and it's a little taboo, but like if you're just starting out, I know we all want to make money,
Right.
but the gifted collabs really help. They really, really help, because think of how much money you're saving if you're working with brands that you like. If you're already spending so much money, if I spend $50 a month on coffee, let's say, which I do, I love coffee, okay? But like, let's say I spend $50 a month on coffee, a certain type of coffee, and I connect with them, and they decide that they're going to send me coffee. Well, that just saved me $50. It might not necessarily be the payout I'm looking for, but if you're just getting started,
You need something in your portfolio.
Yeah, and
it's the same thing with acting, correct?
Exactly. But I would say like do that a few times, but figure out like your niche. Don't do every single thing that comes your way. Just start focusing on your niche. And I think niche is really important. So I also would say figure out what you feel most comfortable talking about. So like if you're a sports person and you like sports stuff, there's so much sports content you can do. I'm not a sports person, so I'm saying that, right? So like there's sports networks and sports this and apps and stuff. So that might be a really great start, and they pay really well. So if you're talking about that, but also like don't do sports and then, you know, maybe food. Okay, well I can do food and sports, but like don't then just do like travel randomly. Like stick to something that you actually feel like you can consistently talk about multiple times, because you can get really lost in so many niches. You don't need every single niche. There's plenty of crossover.
Yes,
but just
especially as an influencer, as a UGC creator, it's not going on your page. So there you have it. That's fine. But if you're an influencer and you don't have a niche, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to grow, because then, you know, if people are following you specifically because of travel, and all of a sudden you're talking about makeup, they might unfollow you because it seems, you know, inauthentic or
Exactly. But I also say, like, even though if you're not influencing, I think a big thing as well, though, sticking with one niche, is that, like, if it's something you feel comfortable talking about, you're going to talk about multiple times. And then you'll have an allotment of variety in one area, and then build on that. And then if you want to, and like, this is how I started really getting to UGC, is like, okay, well, I really want to start doing, I wanted to get invited to more New York City events. I live in New York, and I was like just staying in my apartment, not doing anything. And I thought to myself, well, what's a great way for me to branch out? Well, I really liked fashion, and the places I wanted to were really fashion focused. So I started creating more fashion content and got more fashion brands. So then working on that, yes, that helped my influencer career, but it really was something I was interested in doing in more UGC content,
Right.
and now I get a lot more
Yeah.
of that. And regardless of whether or not it's a brand I would feature on my page,
Right.
I enjoy making that type
Right.
of content.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot of skincare stuff. I don't really talk about skincare stuff on my social, but I do a lot of skincare stuff because I have a skincare issue, and talking to different brands about it and making content around
okay.
it really helps. So like starting with just what you know and just something that you're passionate about. So I think it's just important to do that. Don't go for like, oh, I want to get $10,000 sponsored travel vacation. Yes, we can all get there.
Yeah.
But like, it's the way, it's
Start
like,
small and work your way up.
start with the luggage you just bought. Like
Right.
then, you know, maybe, you know, there's just increments to it. You don't have to just, you're not going to get the first one off the bat. There are people that do, but
Right.
you need to start just
Right.
consistently.
And where can people find you if they want to book you for a slot? I mean, you can find her through Lit Agency.
Yes.
But also, how can we find you online?
So I'm very active on my Instagram. That's probably my main place I go to. It's at Jordie, that's JORDIE_StarBaby, STARBABY. That's on my Instagram and my TikTok. I'm very active on those places, but mostly Instagram. So if you want to get a hold of me, definitely DM me, or you can email me through my Instagram.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with Lit Agency. I'm sure that actors everywhere and brands will find a lot of benefit in everything you've been saying.
Thank you.
And we love working with you.
And I love working with you. Hope's the best. So guys, definitely check her out because you helped me so much. I mean, because of her, I'm a more successful creator.
Oh, well, thank you. End scene.
All right.